Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take the week's biggest stories, shred the hype, and get straight to what's really going on. And today, well, we are strapping in for what is. It's shaping up to be the most financially massive, maybe ethically dubious, and just wildly watched boxing event in, what, a decade?
Oh, easily.
We are, of course, talking about the ultimate crossover clash. The former two-time heavyweight champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, taking on the social media force of nature, Jake Paul.
It's just one of those appointments you can't miss, isn't it? It's the spectacle. You've got pure boxing pedigree colliding with this marketing genius. And our mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty simple. We're giving you the shortcut to being properly informed about this bout. We're going to go beyond the headlines, look at the official facts, some of the surprising contract details, and the genuine, often hilarious skepticism we're seeing from the global boxing community.
Right, from the official BBC reports all the way down to the deepest, darkest corners of the fan forums. Absolutely, because on one side of the ring, you've got Anthony Joshua, an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, his name belongs in the history books of the sport.
Of course.
And on the other, you've got Jake Paul, a fighter who has, let's be honest, mastered the art of maximizing his profits by minimizing the risk from his opponents until now.
That's the big question.
So the question isn't just who wins, but, why on earth is this fight even happening? And the answer, as we're about to find out, is all about some astronomical figures and some pretty astonishing negotiation tactics.
And we have to establish this right up front because it just fundamentally changes the risk calculation for AJ.
Yeah.
This is not an exhibition match.
Yeah.
Our sources all confirm this is a fully sanctioned professional heavyweight bout. It's going on both of their records.
That distinction that it's a sanctioned professional fight, that's the most crucial detail, isn't it?
It is.
It means the stakes for AJ's legacy are just so much higher than if he were, just doing a glorified sparring session for a laugh. So we know the fight is set for Friday, December 19th, 2025. It's in Miami. Can you just walk us through the actual, the logistics they've agreed on?
Certainly. It's all governed by standard professional rules. So you've got your standard 10-ounce gloves, and it's scheduled for 8 3-minute rounds.
8 rounds.
8 rounds, yeah. Now, that is quite short for a heavyweight main event. They usually go for 12.
Right.
But it's a necessary compromise, I think. It caters to Paul's conditioning while still trying to give it this air of legitimacy.
It feels like a very fast timeline for a fight this big as well.
It is, which, again, that just speaks to the priority here. It's
Yeah.
about maximizing the revenue from the announcement itself rather than, a lengthy traditional fight camp buildup.
Right. And the moment you put those standard rules, sanctioned fight, 10-ounce gloves, 3-minute rounds next to the enormous difference in their professional experience, the only logical reason left is the money.
Oh, absolutely.
This fight is purely about capital, and the figures are just, well, they're staggering.
Staggering is an understatement, really. The financial motivation here has completely, utterly eclipsed any competitive rationale. Anthony Joshua, who's already earned millions upon millions, is set for a career-high payday.
A career high?
Yes. While the reports vary a bit, the conservative figure you see quoted, is close to £36.9 million.
Wow.
But there is significant chatter from industry insiders that his final take could push well into 9 figures. I mean, we're talking potentially 95 or even $100 million.
$100 million?
Before endorsement.
To fight Jake Paul. I mean, that is the kind of figure that just changes the entire calculus of risk, doesn't it? It makes all those uncomfortable questions about legacy and opponent choice just sort of fade away.
It does. And the fan commentary we sourced really captured the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
We saw comments describing AJ's position as highway robbery, lol, and another fan pointed out that AJ was described as giddy at the press conference because he's getting paid $95 million for a quick first-round KO.
Right.
That feeling of low risk, massive reward just permeated the whole atmosphere of the announcement.
And it gives you the context for his relaxed mood, doesn't it? He's walking into the ring against a far less experienced, smaller opponent, but he's walking away with the biggest check of his entire life.
And the reported total purse, which covers the whole card, sponsorships, broadcast rights, it's equally massive.
How much are we talking?
A reported combined $267 million, or about 150 million pounds. That scale of finance dictates everything. It dictates why Netflix and the sanctioning bodies are willing to overlook the sporting mismatch.
Absolutely. That level of money guarantees global attention. But let's dig into the one area where, Paul's team actually had some leverage in the negotiation.
Ah, yes, the waste stipulation.
This is where the strategy gets really fascinating.
It is.
This is the crux of the deal, right? The one non-negotiable term Paul's team insisted on: AJ cannot weigh more than 17 stone and 7 pounds.
Which is 245 pounds.
Exactly. So tell us, why is that number so significant for a heavyweight like AJ?
Well, for a fighter like Anthony Joshua, 245 pounds is, look, it's certainly manageable, but it is a slight trim for him. In his more recent fights, AJ has consistently weighed in a bit heavier, often around 17 stone, 12 pounds, so close to 250. It's a weight that balances his speed and his maximum power.
So the fact he agreed to drop 5 pounds.
It shows that Paul's team understands that size is their biggest threat. They wanted to minimize that power differential, even if it's only slightly.
And the backstory behind how they even agreed on that weight cap, it reveals so much about the gamesmanship going on. This is where Eddie Hearn, AJ's promoter, just proved why he's such a strategic powerhouse.
That was a masterful piece of promotional strategy. I mean, Jake Paul's heaviest fighting weight was 227 pounds.
For the Mike Tyson fight.
That's the one. So Paul's team, led by Nikita Badirian, they originally wanted AJ capped at 240 pounds.
Which would have been a really tough cut for AJ.
It would have been tough, bordering on damaging, actually. It would have forced him to sacrifice some of that raw power.
So that 240-pound request was clearly aimed at leveling the playing field as much as they possibly could, forcing AJ to fight at a weight he probably hasn't hit since, 2014?
At least.
Yep.
So Hearn, he realizes this is a major sticking point, and he's since admitted to, misleading Paul's team during the talks.
What did he do?
He told them AJ was walking around much, much heavier. He was saying things like, oh, he's sitting at 265 pounds, maybe 290 pounds or something.
No way.
It was a total exaggeration, clearly designed to create a negotiation anchor point that was way above the reality.
That is next-level mental chess. By overstating AJ's size, Hearn made the final agreed weight of 245 pounds seem like this massive concession from their side.
Exactly.
When in reality, it was a perfectly manageable fighting weight for him all along.
It completely reframed the whole conversation. Paul's team, maybe lacking that deep technical insight into AJ's actual training weight, they settled for 245 pounds, thinking they'd really constrained him.
But they hadn't.
Not really. All they've done is ensure AJ comes in trim, fast, and still carrying enormous knockout power while getting the biggest payday of his life. It just shows that Paul's camp understands the physical threat far better than Paul's public bravado lets on. They were desperate to negate the size.
And finally, on this, we have to talk about the platform because it's such a huge indicator of who they're targeting. This fight is streaming exclusively on Netflix.
And this is probably the most telling business move of the whole thing. Netflix is paying a staggering amount for global exclusivity. And by putting the fight on a streaming platform instead of a traditional pay-per-view, they're deliberately targeting a casual, massive global audience.
The millions of people who already have a subscription.
Exactly. People who will tune in just out of curiosity or because it's a talking point, not because they are dedicated boxing fans.
It totally bypasses the established, and let's be fair, often cynical boxing demographic who might boycott this on principle. Netflix doesn't care about the hardcore boxing fan.
No, they care about subscriber engagement and cultural impact.
Right.
It's a clear signal that this event is being prioritized as a cultural phenomenon, a subscriber driver rather than a competitive sporting contest. One source called it car crash TV. You feel compelled to watch just to see what happens. And that's a product Netflix understands perfectly.
It changes the whole economic model of boxing.
Completely.
Okay, let's pivot now from the financial engineering to the actual sporting reality, which is, frankly, where most of the confusion and criticism is coming from. Anthony Joshua's CV is, it's world-class. Olympic gold medalist in 2012, two-time unified heavyweight champion. This is elite pedigree.
It's an undeniable foundation, absolutely. But you can't ignore his recent trajectory, which is kind of why this fight exists in the first place. While he suffered what a lot of fans call that ugly loss to Dubois, just before this announcement, that fight actually provides the context for why AJ needs this specific kind of bounce-back event.
The Dubois loss was damaging, wasn't it? It raised some serious questions about his mentality, his ability to handle pressure from legitimate top 5 heavyweights. We'll get more into that later. But just before that, He had a performance that serves as the perfect, almost terrifying benchmark for Jake Paul, the Francis Ngannou knockout.
The Danou stoppage was a clinical demolition. It was over in less than 2 rounds. And that moment just cemented AJ's ability to dismantle large, powerful opponents when he is focused. It set the bar for the danger Paul was walking into.
Right.
As one fan commented, Ngannou needed oxygen for several minutes after AJ caught him, and Jake is yet to take a big punch. That contrast is, well, it's chilling.
And that is the reality for Paul, isn't it? He's stepping up from hitting smaller, older, or less powerful opponents to facing a man who just obliterated a physically immense former UFC champion with frightening ease.
Yeah.
So this fight, from AJ's perspective, it seems to be a sort of light-touch confidence builder, a massive payday that requires minimal technical risk, all designed to generate buzz before he tries to get back to that elite tier in 2026.
And speaking of his return, there was a significant, if maybe confusingly timed, training announcement at the press conference that we should look at.
Right. He announced he's linked up with Alexander Usyk's coaching team.
Specifically a coach named Igor, after he parted ways with Ben Davison.
Now, Usyk famously dismantled AJ twice, showing that superior movement and technical precision can beat brute strength. So this move shows AJ is serious about evolving his technical game, but why is the consensus that it's completely irrelevant for the Jake Paul fight?
Because the skill gap is just too vast for any technical nuance to matter. For AJ to beat Paul, he only really needs to rely on his physical gifts, his basic heavy artillery, and his professional timing.
So this is about the future, not the present.
Exactly. The fan comments were brutal, but, accurate. Things like, he could roll out of bed and spark him, and AJ could train with 10 homeless drunks, and he would still send Jake to the Shadow Realm.
Right.
The training changes aimed at fixing the underlying technical flaws that cost him against fighters like Usyk or Dubois. But Jake Paul simply doesn't have the skill set to exploit any of those flaws.
It's an investment in his long-term career, but the short-term challenge is it's a glorified sparring match with the entire world watching. Let's look at Jake Paul's boxing profile, because credit where it's due, he has a very respectable-looking record on paper. 12 wins in 13 matches, 7 by knockout.
He has built a compelling narrative, yes. But the deep dive into his opponent list, that's where you see the constant criticism of cherry-picking. His only loss was against an actual professional boxer, Tommy Fury, who is regarded as, fringe level at best in the elite world.
And here wins.
His wins are mainly against retired mixed martial artists who fight at smaller weights. Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, or much older, past their prime boxers like Mike Tyson and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
The key distinction being that none of those opponents have the specific combination of speed, power, weight, and professional timing that a prime AJ does.
Precisely. Woodley and Silva are great fighters, but they are not natural heavyweights, and their timing is based on the rhythm of MMA, not pro boxing.
So when Paul tries to sell his own strengths, what did he say? Quick, fast, great footwork, great chin.
AJ's response to that was just a clinical, professional assessment. He simply said, I'm very durable, I'll come forward and pose myself and land heavy punches. I'll expose him to tricks in boxing that I don't think he's been exposed to yet.
Let's unpack that phrase for a second. Tricks in boxing.
Yeah.
What exactly is AJ referring to that Paul, despite all his training, wouldn't have seen before?
We're talking about the subtle difference between sort of amateurish aggression and professional heavyweight technique.
Like what?
Things like using subtle feints to shift an opponent's weight and create an opening. Controlling distance with a jab, not just to score points, but to completely disrupt rhythm. And most importantly, the ability to generate enormous power from a short, concise range. Paul is used to fighting men who throw wide, slower shots. AJ will be throwing straight, heavy punches from tight angles that Paul just won't see coming. That's the professional trick. It's about managing leverage and weight, which is really a true heavyweight masters.
And this professional gap is just magnified exponentially by the sheer physical size difference. I mean, the face-off pictures alone told the entire story.
The reaction was universally one of shock. Joshua towers over Jake Paul. AJ is 5 inches taller, which is huge in boxing for leverage. And even with the 245-pound weight cap, AJ will still be 20 to 30 pounds heavier than Paul's typical fighting weight.
Plus the reach advantage.
And a massive reach advantage that will keep Paul on the end of his jab all night.
And 20 to 30 pounds of muscle on a professional heavyweight frame, that translates directly to just massive durability and overwhelming force.
It does. And the overwhelming fan reaction turned quite quickly from amusement to genuine concern.
Really?
Yeah, we saw some quite dark comments like, we might actually see Jake Paul be killed in the ring. This is where the sanctioning bodies come into the conversation. The physical risk is objectively immense.
Which led some fans to say,
One fan concluded, this shouldn't get past the first if AJ actually means what he says. The jump in caliber is just unprecedented in Paul's career, and it is genuinely dangerous.
and even AJ's promoter Eddie Hearn has been playing up that element of danger, suggesting Paul must be either deluded or, hiding some secret skill.
Which feels like pure promotional hype, doesn't it? It's all about making the competition seem closer than it really is.
To sell the $267 million purse?
Exactly. But for you listening, the takeaway has to be clear. The mismatch isn't just about size. It's about the decades of professional, high-stakes combat experience that AJ has, which Paul just cannot replicate in a few years of training against hand-picked opponents.
Right. Let's move on to the theater of the announcement.
Yeah.
The first press conference. For a $267 million bout, the actual face-off was noted as being surprisingly flat. It passed without fireworks.
It really lacked that typical Paul Circus atmosphere. Observers said the atmosphere was relaxed, almost too friendly, and it completely lacked the tension you'd expect from two men about to compete for such massive stakes.
Which immediately led to suspicion.
Immediately, many analysts started suspecting that the fight's outcome was already set.
And what was particularly illuminating was the change in Jake Paul's usual persona. I mean, he is normally so bombastic, loud, full of aggressive trash talk. Yet here, observers said he looked shook, timid, and could barely look him in the eyes. It was a complete deviation from his brand.
It was startling, wasn't it? When you are finally standing opposite a world-class athlete who is physically towering over you, the psychological warfare changes entirely.
Right.
Paul's usual antics, they rely on having a psychological edge over older, smaller men. Here, he seemed to be acknowledging the physical reality of it all.
One fan suggested he was being uncharacteristically respectful because he didn't want to pay for it in the ring.
Meaning he didn't want to give AJ any extra motivation for a brutal knockout.
Sounds like self-preservation masking as respect. But despite his timidity, Paul still had to sell the fight, didn't he? He had to sell his own self-belief.
Of course. He claimed he had a great shot, and leaning into that idea of the fearless disruptor, he even said he wanted AJ to cut me up and hurt me.
He was trying to frame himself as the underdog hero.
Exactly. He positioned himself as a beacon for kids and an inspiration, demonstrating where hard work can take you.
And what was his official prediction?
Audacious. A knockout in round 4 or 5. Which, that prediction is strategic in itself. It suggests longevity and drama, which is exactly what Netflix wants to sell.
And you contrast that with Anthony Joshua's clear, uncompromising mission statement. When they asked him if just winning was enough, AJ was adamant.
He was. No. I need to knock him out.
His focus was visceral. He promised not just to win, but to inflict decisive punishment. He said he intends to break Paul's face, and crucially, I need to cut him up, break him up, and hurt him to end Paul's delusion.
And that isn't just promotion. This is a professional champion reclaiming his narrative after that Dubois defeat. He needs a statement performance.
That need for a definitive statement, that provides the strongest counter-argument against all those fixed theories we're about to get into. AJ needs to look utterly dominant.
He does. And it was interesting that even during this spectacle, he couldn't help but take a little dig at his biggest rival, Tyson Fury, who had publicly bet against him.
What did he say?
He brought Fury into it, saying Paul is better than Tyson Fury. He's actually sitting here, which was a clear reference to Fury's history of pulling out of fights or not showing up. It shows that even in this crossover circus, AJ's real focus is still on proving he belongs at the very top of the heavyweight division, not just fighting YouTubers.
But despite AJ's clear commitment to a brutal KO, we have to address the most toxic element surrounding this whole event. The public, pervasive conspiracy theories that the fight is a fix or a scripted sham.
This is just an inevitable consequence of Jake Paul's involvement in boxing, isn't it? He has blurred the line between sport and entertainment so thoroughly that a lot of dedicated fans just automatically assume any lucrative, mismatched fight has to be manipulated for profit.
And the core fan argument is cynical, but you can see the logic. If AJ, a genuine world-class champion, doesn't deliver a first or second round destruction.
It must mean he was paid off to carry Paul for a few rounds.
Exactly. The fear is there's a no KO clause or some agreement to drag the fight out to optimize the value for Netflix. They benefit from more screen time, more drama, not a 90-second blowout.
And Tommy Fury, Paul's old opponent, was particularly blunt about it. He said, "If it goes past 2 minutes of the opening round, I will take that as AJ has been paid off."
Wow. That sets the expectation bar dangerously high for AJ.
It's an impossible bind for him. If he knocks Paul out immediately, critics will say it was a setup because Paul folded too easily. If he carries him for a few rounds, his legacy is ruined.
And the fan speculation on Reddit was already mapping out how they think the fix would look.
Let me guess.
A bit of dancing around each other for a few rounds, then Joshua unleashes a little but nowhere near his power, and Paul hits the deck for the loss.
Right. Now, we have to provide the robust counter-argument, which centers entirely on AJ's professional pride and the potential destruction of his hard-won legacy.
The sources overwhelmingly suggest his ego and his desperate need to recover from that damaging Dubois loss just won't allow him to participate in a pantomime.
You're saying the need for a statement with use, a genuinely brutal knockout, outweighs the potential financial incentive of carrying Paul to round 4.
I think so, yes. The money is massive regardless. But if he struggles, or if the KO looks fake, the stain on his career would be permanent.
He's a former Olympic champion who took on every single mandatory challenger.
To participate in a farce would be to admit he's just a cash-out artist now. One fan's comment was really insightful. AJ's ego is way too big to carry him or pull shots. This is a genuine fight, and it's seriously dangerous.
Right. He needs to validate that massive paycheck with a display of undeniable world-class violence.
And what about the sanctioning body? The risk for them, having authorized this as a professional fight, would be astronomical if a fix were ever proven or even widely believed.
Of course. They were lending their credibility to this spectacle, and they're relying on AJ upholding the sporting integrity. They cannot afford to have their reputation tarnished by a staged event.
So that's the balance. The vast majority of professional boxing experts believe that while the matchmaking is questionable, the fight itself will be legitimate, driven by AJ's urgent need for a dominant performance.
The pressure is all on AJ. He has to silence the critics with an early, decisive KO. Anything less, and the conspiracy theories win.
Which brings us to the wider implications, because this fight is just so deeply intertwined with Anthony Joshua's legacy, a subject that's already incredibly polarized among fans. We really need to dissect the conflicting viewpoints that define his career up to this point.
The debate is fierce, isn't it?
Yeah.
On one side, you have the severe critics, especially after his second loss to Usyk and the recent Dubois defeat. They argue that AJ is a fraud whose limited ability was exposed when he stepped up against genuinely skilled technical boxers. They say it made him gun-shy and too cautious.
And they see this Jake Paul fight
as the ultimate concession. A low-stakes cash-out that basically acknowledges his time at the very top is over.
That is some harsh criticism for a two-time unified champion. What is the argument from his staunch defenders?
Well, his supporters really emphasize his commitment to the sport. They argue he took on every mandatory challenger, highlighting that he never cherry-picked his way to the top like some other high-profile heavyweights.
Right.
For them, this Jake Paul fight is just a sensible, end-of-career financial decision, a reward for his years of service to boxing. One fan noted, if he takes Paul out quickly, then people can be silent about his recent struggles.
But regardless of which side you lean on, the risk this fight poses to his standing is immense. If this goes past round 3, or if AJ fails to score a brutal, definitive knockout, his legacy takes a potentially fatal hit.
It absolutely does. The perception will be that he struggled with a YouTube boxer. One commentator said that after the Dubois loss and this money fight, only a wipeout in the first round could even start to recover it.
So anything less than total domination just confirms to his critics that he's past his prime and prioritizing money over competitive drive.
He cannot afford to let Paul look competitive, even for a second.
Okay, now let's turn to Jake Paul. The stakes for him are, what? Competitive 0, financial infinity. What's the ultimate career trajectory for him, whether he wins or loses badly?
He literally cannot lose from a business perspective. As one commenter dryly put it, he gets the bag before the CTE.
Oh, right.
The reported personal payout for Paul, also likely close to 9 figures, means that even if he is knocked out cold in the first minute, he has secured his financial future. The loss just transitions him fully into his already burgeoning role as a promoter and a businessman.
But what happens if he manages to hang with AJ for a respectable number of rounds, say into the fifth or sixth?
That is the ultimate promotional victory for him. If he shows durability and survives a few rounds against a genuine world-class heavyweight, his credibility instantly skyrockets. It validates his entire narrative of being a disruptor and guarantees an even larger fee for his next fight. His team is already floating names like Conor McGregor as a potential follow-up.
A fight that would be even bigger culturally.
Exactly. Capitalizing on the near-miss story against AJ.
So the motivation, confirmed by all the sources, is just overwhelmingly financial. He's essentially buying a massive marketing boost and securing a generational fortune and using the physical risk as high-stakes collateral.
Precisely. His team operates under the principle that he literally can't lose even if he loses. The financial rewards outweigh any professional defeat, especially since professional boxing validation has always been secondary to entertainment value for the Paul brand.
And this whole spectacle, this $267 million bout on Netflix, it just defines the new landscape of boxing, doesn't it? It's the ultimate expression of that car crash TV model.
Where competitive integrity takes a backseat to massive global streaming appeal. It fundamentally redefines the hierarchy of power in the sport.
How so?
Well, traditionally, elite talent dictated the biggest paydays. Now, cultural influence and promotional reach, what Jake Paul brings, that dictates where the money flows. And having streaming giants like Netflix involved just ensures that trend accelerates. They're driven by different metrics than traditional pay-per-view providers.
And this new hierarchy is just explicitly reinforced by the co-main event, which is Anderson Silva versus Tyron Woodley.
Which is absolutely astonishing when you think about it.
They're two former opponents of Jake Paul.
Both former UFC champions who Paul has already beaten. The undercard reinforces the theme that the established traditional boxing world is now orbiting the YouTube phenomenon. Paul's leftovers are now the main support act for one of the biggest bouts in recent history.
It's a bold statement, isn't it? That the commercial viability of Paul's ecosystem is now driving the entire sports revenue model?
And the consensus, as we've seen from the sources, remains firm. This fight doesn't make any sense as a competition, but it makes absolute, perfect, undeniable sense as a business venture. The sport is fractured between competitive purity and financial spectacle.
And that fracture is only going to widen as long as figures like Anthony Joshua are willing to accept such vast sums to take part in these highly visible mismatches. It sets a dangerous precedent for every other elite fighter struggling to get their next big payday.
It really does.
So let's bring together the crucial insights from this deep dive into the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul clash. Our analysis reveals an undeniable, monumental mismatch in skill, size, and professional experience.
All packaged up in the form of a $267 million spectacle.
Anthony Joshua's mindset seems clear. He is relaxed, focused, and determined to deliver a decisive, brutal knockout.
He sees this as a necessary high-reward move to silence his critics and solidify his legacy before he tries to move back into that elite heavyweight pool.
And the unavoidable looming question is the integrity of the fight itself. Will AJ fulfill his promise to break him up and hurt him with a legitimate early knockout?
Or will the overwhelming financial gravity of Netflix and the pressure to maximize screen time turn this into a negotiated dance, severely compromising AJ's reputation in the process?
And this brings us to the final provocative thought that we want to leave you with to mull over. We've seen time and again that Jake Paul's opponents often underestimate the financial and promotional machine he represents.
But AJ is a truly world-class, heavy-fisted professional. The question isn't if AJ will win, but at what point does that vast chasm between YouTuber boxer and Olympic champion become too dangerous to maintain the pretense of entertainment?
We're talking about the measurable risk of CTE and permanent brain damage when a true heavyweight is involved. When you consider the reported $100 million paycheck, what is the moral cost of sanctioning such a massive mismatch?
And what responsibility do the governing bodies bear when they authorize a bout that is so clearly dictated by commercial demand over genuine sporting integrity?
It's a question that the professional community really has to grapple with, regardless of how fast the knockout comes.
This event, for all its financial success, will set a new and potentially very dangerous precedent for how far the pursuit of a massive financial payout can push the limits of safety and fairness in this new crossover boxing world.
A compelling and troubling thought to leave you with. Whether you watch it or not, the conversation and the massive shift in boxing economics has absolutely begun. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.